Wait a minute, let us hijack that for you.
Hey team, welcome back to the channel, man. As always, I am stoked and pumped up to see you. I got Randall with Grunt Proof and Brent from Brent0331.
Kill!
Machine gun gunner.
All right.
So, wanted to have a little bit of a different conversation with you, as things we've been talking about here on the channel. And super stoked to have these two warriors with me to talk through some of their experience and observations and lessons learned. Combined total probably 40 fucking years in conventional infantry units, multiple deployments to both Iraq and Afghanistan. And we've all seen all kinds of shit. So what we've been looking and talking about is, you know, when you're in, you know, this deployed environment, whether you're on a mounted or dismounted patrol, you're wearing your kit, you got your full battle rattle on, you got all kinds of gear, especially if you're dismounted, you don't have the luxury of the vehicles hauling all your stuff. You got to carry all of it. Pretty taxing on the body, yes?
Oh yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
How long is the longest period of time that either one of you all have sustained a full combat load?
Non-stop,
Yeah.
3 days.
3 fucking days.
For me, during the Iraq invasion of 2003, pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
It was in the back of an AAV for the entire push, which was about a month long.
Right.
So just constantly wearing a flak and Kevlar.
What did that do to you physically throughout those, you know, whether it's days on end or just the entire duration, trying to sustain your physical and mental endurance for that?
Oh, it's taxing.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Knees, hips, back, we're paying for it now.
Yeah.
And, you know, also when you're going through this type of environment, you know, we're taking this from the good guy's vantage point. I know I can testify, moving on mounted convoys, man, everything you see, you're just in a constant state of hypervigilance. Everything's a potential threat. Fucking bags on trash on the ground, some dude standing on a bridge. Any thoughts as far as just that whole state of what's a threat, what's not a threat? Are you actively looking for dudes with weapons? Obviously you are, and that's maybe where your focus goes to, but you still have some concern or not as much concern for what appears to be just a civilian.
It's an absolute mindfuck. You're, like you said, the hypervigilance, that wears you down. You get used to wearing the gear and being hungry and tired and being miserable, but the mental stress is what definitely starts to affect guys after a while. You got the cortisol levels jacked up, and I'd say that's the worst, because yeah, everything is an IED, potential threat. So yeah, it wears on you big time.
Yeah, I mean, the hypervigilance, absolutely. You know, I think back to my first deployment in 2003 during the Iraq invasion. It's like our enemy, it was a conventional fight. We were going up against the Iraqi army, a uniformed army, right? And then like the Fedayeen were all black. So it was like we knew clearly who the enemy were. But then I fast forward, coming back on a second deployment in 2004, our enemy looked different, right? Now we're security and stability operations. The enemy's trying to blend in with the local populace. You know, overwhelming hypervigilance, even more so because, like, hey, you can't just shoot fucking everybody. You got civilians out there. And if you start indiscriminately killing civilians, well, you've already lost the war.
Right.
So,
yeah, no doubt. And we've certainly seen case studies of that happening, right? People doing dumb stuff out there. So I think about, you know, in the United States, you know, if I get onto any big YouTube channel, if I get on to any big Instagram channel or whatever these poi boys or whatever are doing, like, the cool thing is to put on all the tactical gear and do static gun shoots and maybe have some movement maneuver. I wonder sometimes, like, have these guys actually trained for days and weeks on end in their gear? And my gut says, my intuition says probably not. Like, they don't know what that second, third order of effect is of not only dealing with the gear, but also what that hypervigilance does to you. You know, if you did have to operate in a contested environment, right, the scenario basically is, you know, you're at your homestead, whatever, and you need to go out and conduct a dismounted security patrol of your specific AO. What kind of gear and equipment do you want to take? How much do you want to take? Now, obviously, a lot of that's going to be based off of You know, the easy, well, it's all, you know, Met TC or all situation dependent. But sometimes I think we use that as a cop-out. Like, there's some things that you just got to have, right? You got to have some water. You got to have some rations. You got to have some freaking ammo. But outside your basic load, you know, when it does come to full kit, you know, in that type of environment, would you want to wear full body armor and Kevlar and take all your freaking cool guy Hooyah gear, or would you want to maybe work a little bit lighter?
Well, to address the YouTube gun tubers and all that, it's pretty easy to put on all this gear and you feel the weight, and it's easy to get through a range day or two and be okay, but to actually conduct sustained operations that way, that's when you start to notice aches and pains and all that. But I personally love seeing all these people getting into this stuff. I think it's freaking awesome. Guys arming up, getting gear and stuff. But to answer the question, yeah, Met TC is a cop-out, absolutely, but there's some important considerations there. Like, in my 19-year-old grunt days, could I put on 60 pounds of gear and suffer through movements through these mountains? Probably, and take a bunch of ibuprofen and deal with it. And even if I'm a little bit out of shape, probably be okay.
It'll buff out.
Yeah, coming up on 40 and thinking about a lot of the older guys that are into this stuff, like, absolutely not. There's no plate carrier. If I'm in an urban environment, maybe I do have a vehicle, or I'm worried about explosions and what other, like, when shit's blowing up and bullets are ricocheting off of stuff, there's a lot more to that than just getting shot. So for me, it would depend on the terrain, what I'm doing, and my physical fitness. But I think that's the most ignored aspect of it. Are guys rucking, conducting PT? Are you fit enough to put the shit on and run up and down the hills? Most of us probably aren't.
Yeah.
So no, I'm going as light as I freaking can. Against what a lot of the gun tubers are doing with the 3 and 4 magazines. They're stealing that from the special forces guys who have a reason to carry that little. No, the heaviest thing I'm bringing is optics and ammo. And no matter what the mission is, what the scenario is, I'm bringing 10 magazines, 10 plus. So if I got to sacrifice cold weather gear, sleeping gear, food, stuff like that, I want the ammo. Yeah, light as possible.
I mean, yeah, it's, no matter what video you watch on YouTube, you're gonna see dudes, you know, head to toe, fucking, you know, high cut Kevlar helmets with fucking sound amplifying fucking ear pro and all these other crazy bells and whistles on their Kevlar helmet, and, you know, body armor and all this other shit. But, like, you know, do you see water on their fucking gear? And I just think about moving through environments like these. This one right now, we're out at Grunt Proof's AO, and there's manzanita bushes everywhere. You know, try moving through that fucking manzanita shit with all these fucking wires and electronic ear pro and all this other crazy shit that's on your head. Try getting through all that with all that crap on. You're not gonna do it. And the biggest case in point I can throw out is, like, well, look at Marines training in the jungle training centers in, like, Okinawa and stuff. Like, what are they wearing? They're wearing fucking just regular deuce gear, no body armor, and a boonie, right? And there's a reason for that, is right. And we have precedent for this in Vietnam. Like, how much, you know, did you see troops maneuvering in those jungle environments, you know, outfitted head to toe with body armor? So I think if you look forward in terms of, like, the U.S. military, not talking about, like, the armed prepared citizen, but, like, if we get into another jungle warfare, we're going to see a lot different appearance of our fighting men. But that can translate into the civilian side. You know, you're up in the mountains like this, man, you're going up and down mountains, you're going through fucking manzanita bushes and all this other stuff. And, like, does body armor have a purpose? Absolutely. But are you going to be able to effectively maneuver in this type of environment? And you're going to be doing, those of us that have been in combat know that 99% of the time, you're not fighting. It's other shit. It's movement. It's sweating your ass off. It's freezing your ass off. It's sitting in LPOP. It's sitting in the defense. It's going on patrol. And that's taxing. So, yeah, there's a time and place for body armor, but I think, you know, having back in the old days, excuse me, you know, we wore LBVs. right? So it's like, hey, when the requirement for body armor wasn't exactly there, fucking you took your flak and Kevlar off, you put your LBV and boonie on, and you stepped off, right? And if you needed your flak and Kevlar, well, you fucking put that shit on, and then your LBV went on top of it. So, in my opinion, I still think that's a good way to go. But that's not what we see nowadays.
Right. And you know, like Randall's is talking about, I don't want to discourage anybody from training with your gear on. But if your go-to answer is, I want to put all this gear on, like you said, you have to get out and train with it and endure it and understand what your body can actually go to. If you're like, I'm going to wear all my kit, but you never do except for 2 hours, you know, once a month when you go to the range, you're doing yourself a true disservice because you don't know what you're getting ready to come in contact with. And you know, Brent, when you're talking with what you're just sharing, I was thinking about, you know, the difference between that first day of deployment and that towards a couple weeks in, a couple months in, and then towards the end, you know, that first day, man, you're wearing elbow pads, knee pads, you got groin protectors, bro, you're wearing everything. And then you're like, I may be taking and assuming a little bit more risk, taking some of this crap off, but this is not right? It doesn't feel good. And then to kind of, to use a good first sergeant word, to caveat of an earlier thought, you know, when you are operating as, you know, that the good guys in these contested environments, and you're actively looking for threats, I just think it stands to reason that you need to understand the appearance that you are giving the population around you. If you're running around looking like G.I. Joe in full kit, like you're straight up giving the whole world on notice, anybody who has observation with you, that you are a target, you're a potential target, you could be coming after me, and you're kind of putting a target on your back. So I would agree, you know, going as light as you can, thinking about the environment. Obviously, you know, mounted operations, just going into town is going to have a completely different scenario, and what you may have in the vehicle and ready to go, but also, you know, just think about what you're wearing. If you're, you know, all camoed up, in some places in this country, that's absolutely okay, right? Back in Georgia, everybody's freaking camoed up. Here in California, not so much, right? You're projecting and presenting a story, and I think understanding what that is on both sides of the equation is of critical importance.
I like Brent's example of the earphones. That's the first time I was running around out here trying to wear those, and so yeah, they're getting caught on shit and falling apart. I lost a couple pieces, but even worse, it made my situational awareness extremely downgraded. So it looks cool, like Ghost Recon. It was the first games pushing that stuff out there, but you're losing what you can hear around you. That's bad, and then you're also getting shit caught up on everything.
Right.
So I wanted to play with it, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was like, yep,
well,
ain't wearing that shit.
And I'm just gonna throw out there, all that anybody's ever gonna take from what I just said is, oh, Brent 0331 says never wear ear pro. That's all they're gonna take from this. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that as wonderful as those things may be in, you know, shooting your firearm, they're gonna get caught on the vegetation, right? And and by the way, they run off of fucking batteries. They don't last forever.
More batteries.
So, you know, and you know, most of the guys that are wearing those are wearing high cut Kevlars. Their Kevlar is specifically contoured. You're sacrificing that protection that we're talking about, right, to accommodate those hearing protection. So you're sacrificing what the old K-Pot style Kevlar helmet protected all of this, right? Now look at the protection we have. It's looks like a skull cap from fucking World War I, like when the French first designed it. So, you know, it's give and take, but you know, you got to look at the environment you're operating in, and is that stuff going to work? It might have worked in the GWAT, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, maybe, but is it going to work in something like this? Probably not.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead.
When you talk about METTC, like, that is a generic term, but you should include that in your training.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, like Brent said, people are going to take away, like, don't do this at all, or always do this way. It's like, that's why we say METTC. You got to be flexible. You got to adapt. So, you know, conduct training in many different ways. Do some heavy rucks. That simulates carrying shit. And you start climbing up and down hills with this crap on, and you're like, all right, I don't need this, or I can lose this or add that, or I definitely need a fuck ton of water. So that's extra weight for you.
Yeah.
But you know, the Met-TC should be included in your training as well, not just what you're going to do in a doomsday situation, because you need to be able to train for all that stuff. So your training has to, you know, mimic what could possibly come up.
Right.
So today I'm going to pretend a fucking wildfire came through. I don't need a gun and 20 magazines. I don't need a plate carrier, but I do need to be thinking about other people trying to hijack my shit and take what I have. So at least I need a pistol on me. Can I draw that pistol from my truck?
Right.
Can I carry magazines somewhere where I don't look like a Rambo running around?
Right.
So yeah, it's like a whole spectrum of training and making decisions.
Yeah, and not just using acronyms just to throw them out, but to actually use them and train with and through them. And you know, as it relates to, are we going to wear gear? Are we not going to wear gear? I just go back to risk mitigation, right? Identifying the hazards and understanding the risk and developing controls to mitigate those risks that you're going to assume, and just know and understand that if you choose to do this avenue, this COA, that second and third order effect is 1, 2, and 3, not assuming any other variables come in. And if you take this route, you're assuming these risks based off of that, and just you ultimately have to be okay with those risks that you're assuming. So. Well, gents, I appreciate the conversation and some of the experiential knowledge that I think is missing in a lot of, well, it's missing in like 97% of the population, right? I mean, very, very few of us raise our hand and say, you know, here I am, send me. But you two are definitely a couple badasses who've done just that and continue to share and pass on that knowledge, which I think is critically important. As far as I can tell, just by looking at some of the big gun tubers, like there's a lot of young dudes out there who want some purpose, direction, and motivation as it relates to these areas. So hats off to you for doing what you do, and hats off to our cameraman Eric Coleman, who's an actual backpacker, unlike his best buddy Dan Becker, who did not answer my phone call a couple days ago. He didn't do it.
He was busy getting rescued from
Yeah.
fucking Grand Canyon or wherever.
But again, guys, make sure you check out Grunt Proof's channel. Make sure you check out Brent0331, and definitely leave some comments down below so we can continue to keep this conversation rolling.
Until then, you get out there, you keep grinding, you stay stoked.
You son of a bitch.
Stay stoked, bitches.
Team, if you want to master your craft and develop your tactical virtue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on future content. Consider becoming a channel member. It's going to give you exclusive access to content not available to anybody else. I appreciate you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.